I think the first thing that I noticed about him was how much he loved Jordan, and him and Jordan were kind of attached at the hip when I first met them. He just loved his brother.
He was my best snowboard buddy. We skateboard together, and as kids we'd get dropped off at the skate park in the early morning and hang out till the very end of the day. It wasn't just good enough to climb up a hill, but we had to find the biggest tree on that hill and climb up to the top of that, and then almost get stuck or almost fall down. But it had to be kind of extreme or have some risk to it, or it was boring to us. It wasn't as fun.
He could just kind of leave the city, leave all of his worries behind, go be out in nature. It made me feel so carefree when I was with him.
In grade 9, 10, we were doing a lot of drugs together, kind of recreationally for fun. I was actually with my wife now. We were on and off, how junior high relationships are. I sent her a big long message saying I really love you, and here's what I've been doing, and this is all the stuff I've been getting up to. And she saw that and she's like, holy shit, bye. So, we broke up. And then to me, that was a big wake up call, and kind of got away from that stuff. And I could tell he didn't as much, but at that age, we're so young. I didn't know it was gonna grow into this big addiction and become everything that it ended up being. I got really lucky. It could have so easily been in the same boat as Jamie was. I broke my ankle, and I had Percocet. One day I woke up and they were gone. And we were out at the bar that night, so I was like, oh, maybe I lost them. And I was like, I'm gonna go back and see if they're at this bar, because my ankle's hurting. And I know he was like, no, don't go back there. He's like, they're not gonna be there. He's like, someone would have picked them up. And well, let's try, let's go look at it. And he came with me, and thinking back now, he's telling me not to go back there because he's the one who took them. And kind of after that, I started to realize, these aren't coincidences. This is him, trying to get these drugs in any way he can, and covering it up so that, he doesn't have to deal with the shame and the guilt. Because the Jamie that I grew up with, he wouldn't do something like that to me because, we're brothers, right? We're twins.
In a relationship with someone with addiction, they don't want to cause any more damage than they've already done. So they're going to tell you things that are going to make you happy no matter if it's a lie or not. And we had gone through so much together, I just didn't understand why he was lying to me in the first place. I knew everything about him, so there was nothing he could say that would make me love him any less. Especially whenever he would relapse again, he felt a huge amount of shame and guilt. Every single time he relapsed, it was just that feeling, in the pit of your stomach, here we go again.
That cycle is just, it's exhausting. He broke his scaphoid. I think with skateboarding was the initial break. He'd get a surgery, and it was a small bone that doesn't always heal properly, so he had multiple surgeries on it. He'd find out his bone's not healing, and you need another surgery in 6 months, and then give him some opiates and send him home with some Percocets, and then that just immediate trigger. No addict is gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna take this one bottle of pills, and then I'm gonna go back to being sober. It's near impossible, I would say.
The most trauma he was dealing with was things he had done in the heat of his addiction. He had been doing drugs for days. He was in a little bit of a psychosis, and he felt the need to leave the house immediately. He found the nearest car and just started driving. The police inevitably found him. If anyone is doing things when they're in a psychosis, it shouldn't be met with criminalization. I think it should be met with some mental health supports. The scariest thing is when he would barely come to after overdosing, and then they would send him out. It was basically just, okay, bye, and he hadn't even got his wits about him yet. We would try and get him into a detox, and it would be full, and he'd have nowhere to go. Went to Canmore and we kind of walked like by the river and we just like took pictures. We were just kind of being silly. And he was being really loving that day too. Like weirdly, like loving. But then that night gave him a call. We were supposed to hang out the next day. He was like, I don't know, I think I'm gonna relapse tonight. And so I was just really frustrated. I just kind of hung up the phone, and then the next morning at 11 a.m. I got the call that he had passed away.
So the final cause of death was found to be carfentanil, fentanyl, bupropion, and alprazolam toxicity, and the manner of death being accidental.
I feel like every single time I see someone on the street, it just reminds me of him, and I just remember that they have a family. They might even have a girlfriend that like loves them so much, and everyone's just a person and they need help just like any other person, regardless of their story, regardless of what they've done. It's really important to just remember that, and now it's kind of like what I want to do with my life. I'm currently enrolled in addiction studies. I just want to like go in there and just like be that person that like someone needs.
The Jamie Blain Memorial Fund of the Bankton style was end of the year competition. Give back to the snowboard community because that's what Jamie really loved. You know, in the snowboard community, they might not talk about it that much, but it lives everywhere, addiction and mental health issues. So we want to be that person that says, you know, have fun, we're giving back, but here are some resources if you need help with anything. You know, I think Jamie would be honored too to see something like that. I could see him saying kind of like, what the fuck, like this is all for me. But I mean, he would also be stoked on it. So yeah, it makes me happy.
Jamie has taught me to be such a more caring, empathetic person. And he was so funny, and he just like taught me just to, when things get tough, like you can always just find something to laugh at, you know?